Earlier this morning, Michigan took it upon themselves to announce that Sherrone Moore, who has already coached 2 games as the permanent head coach at the University of Michigan and has been doing the job since January of this year, finally signed a fully executed contract to be the head coach at the University of Michigan. One of the things that I wanted to talk about when it relates to this are why this is important and really calling out some folks that want to know what's the big deal. All right. So let's start with why this is important, and then let's talk about what the big deal is and why a memorandum of understanding, for which Sherrone Moore was working under, is nothing like a fully executed contract, and those details matter. So the reason that this contract made it to the forefront is Tom Shad and Steve Berkowitz basically doing their due diligence as really great enterprise reporters at USA Today, found out that Sherrone Moore was still operating under a memorandum of understanding as the head coach at the University of Michigan. And that in and of itself is an aberration. It is an anomaly. It is conspicuous. The reason this is all of those things, an aberration, an anomaly, conspicuous, is because every other football coach in the Power 4 in the FBS is operating with a fully executed contract. None of them are operating under a memorandum of understanding. And there's reason for this. The other reason that this is significant is that it is the University of Michigan. The University of Michigan is the winningest football program in history. They have over 1,000 wins. The University of Michigan also won the 2023 National Championship. The University of Michigan also won the 2023 National Championship, going 15-0, being undefeated. And the 2023 Michigan National Championship team was handed the trophy and then immediately thrown under protest by the entirety of college football for stealing. Saying sign stealing really kind of hides the stealing part of this, because that is what we are very upset about as college football purveyors and fans. It feels unfair what Michigan was doing en route to not just winning in 2023, but it seems like winning since 2021 when Connor Stalions was a member of the coaching staff, the man who orchestrated the stealing signs from other teams using advanced scouting techniques, then deciphering them, putting them into a collated sheet, and calling out what the other team was doing just as they were about to do it. One of the glaring examples of this is Ohio State 2022, when you can see him pointing up and the entirety of the Michigan football team also pointing up because they know it's a pass. It's a pass play. There's another really telling play where they're sending both their safeties on a blitz, which is borderline suicidal unless you know that you got a run coming. Because it's not even zero blitz. There's just nobody there. You just left it wide open. So if somebody just runs by you and your quarterback is smart enough to tick it over the top, you got that. But that's 2023. Why is that significant for Sherrone Moore? A, he was the offensive coordinator. B, he was the interim head coach for 3 of those games. Okay. Last reason that this is really significant is that Sherrone Moore is in a very unique position as the man who was tapped by the former head coach to succeed him by contractual obligation. Jim Harbaugh had a fully executed contract, and in that fully executed contract, he had placed a clause in there that if he should leave for the NFL and or live up to his end, right, win a national championship, Big Ten, that Sherrone Moore would succeed him as the head coach of the University of Michigan. He could only do that with a fully executed contract. He could not do that with a memorandum of understanding. I find this fascinating because we're also at a place where Michigan looks like it is this close to coming off the rails. And being this close to coming off the rails is getting blown out by Texas. 31-12 is what the scoreboard says, but it's really 31-6 until garbage time. Michigan got moved around on the offensive line and the defensive line and could not muster an offense of any kind. Couldn't throw the ball on Texas, couldn't run the ball on Texas. They still don't really know what they have at quarterback. It looks like Davis Warren is their guy, but that means that you missed on your quarterback evaluation with Alex Orji because he was supposed to be the guy succeeding J.J. McCarthy. And that is, I think, one of the undersold points of the 2023 team is they hit on J.J. McCarthy. Didn't know that it was going to be that good, but it turned out to be that good. So now, as Sherrone Moore is trying to figure out the quarterback position as the head coach, find out what he has to do to get Donovan Edwards going because he hasn't done much, and find out who else can catch a football other than Colston Loveland, maybe Samaj Morgan, maybe Tyler Moore. We're in this place right here. The thing about a memorandum of understanding versus a fully executed contract is quite simple, honestly. One of these is enforceable in court, and one of these is not. The reason that we sign contracts is because we believe if the contract is violated, we can seek relief in the court system. With a memorandum of understanding, that's just not the case. A memorandum of understanding looks a lot like a letter of intent for a recruit. So the structure is really, this is what we're offering. This is what you are willing to give us for the offer. These are the bullet points that we agreed to. And then we draft out a structure that we think we can follow that will lead us to a fully executed contract that takes care of all of the fine details of the contract. But for our purposes, and frankly for most people's purposes, you're focused on a couple of things. You're focused on money, you're focused on results, you're focused on incentives, you're focused on length of the contract, you're focused on the expiration date of the contract. It's really a working contract. It's like a working title for whatever it is you're making. I think many people fail to understand why that could be so significant because there's a variety of purposes that you could use to basically napkin or write down on a napkin what you expect or what you think. But in some states at some times, that napkin could also be the fully executed contract. Not so in the state of Michigan. And that's where they're signing these things. I think they both have a really interesting back and forth when you're talking about memorandums of understanding and fully executed contracts. But I would want a fully executed contract if I was Sherrone Moore. And that's really the point to raise here. The point to raise here is that the memorandum of understanding is non-legal, not legally binding. The point of a contract is that it is. So with respect to your intentions and your actions, a memorandum of understanding is great. But with a contract, you got something you can show to anybody at any time saying, this is what we said that we were going to do. This is how this person violated that contract. There's a difference. Okay, here's one. You don't sign a marriage memorandum of understanding. You sign a marriage contract. That's why we have divorce in court. Perhaps that's the best way to take a look at this if you're trying to wrap your head around it. One is legally binding and one is not. But you know what? It's all moot if Michigan ain't no good because while he may get this year to figure it out, I don't know that he's going to get next year to figure it out. He's going to have to figure it out quite a bit. And I don't think that Michigan set Sherrone Moore up to succeed here from the jump, because it took someone from USA Today pointing out, hey, he ain't signed no contract, for them to go and get that contract executed. But you also, as you know, are dealing with these NCAA violations and the notice of allegations that the NCAA sent to Michigan in August. And what's in them? Well, because Sherrone Moore was forced to sit out a game last year due to recruiting violations, anything that he is found liable for in this NCAA investigation into sign stealing could make him a repeat violator. And there are certain ways in which a university could use that to their advantage to say, not pay your man or pay him less. And if you're Sherrone Moore's agent, you're going, no, we're not doing any of that. So you have to continue to negotiate. And I don't think they want to say that part out loud. And I would understand. I wouldn't want to say that part out loud. But I'll tell you this, man. If it does end up that he is a repeat violator, according to the NCAA, we saw what the University of Michigan did with Connor Stallions.